It's a September morning in 1952. Somewhere in Ohio, a young woman named Dorothy is standing in front of a bathroom mirror. She's 24 years old. She's pinning her hair. She's pressing her skirt with her hands one final time, and before she walks out that door, before she faces 32 children who will remember her for the rest of their lives, she is rehearsing something. Not her lesson plan, the rules. Nobody handed Dorothy a list. Nobody sat her down and explained them. She learned them the way every woman in her position learned them. By watching, by listening, and occasionally by making a mistake once and never making it again. This is a countdown of the unspoken rules every 1950s schoolteacher carried with her, every single day. We'll start with the small ones, and we'll end on the rule that quietly broke the most hearts. Stay with me. Number 10. You arrived before the children, always. The bell meant nothing to a teacher in 1952. The children arrived at 8:30. Dorothy arrived at 7:45. No one required it in writing, but the teacher who walked in with the students was already behind, already losing something invisible and irreplaceable called authority. The room had to be ready. The board had to be clean. The day had to already be in motion before the first small coat hit the hook. That was the rule. Number 9. Your appearance was a moral statement. Dresses only, below the knee. Hair set, never loose. Cosmetics, but careful cosmetics. Too much lipstick, and you were fast. Too little, and you were letting yourself go. The line was narrow and unwritten, and every woman in the building knew exactly where it was. In many districts, nylon stockings were quietly expected year-round. A teacher's appearance wasn't personal. It was a message to every parent who walked through that door. Your children are safe here. Number 8. You did not discuss your personal life, ever. Not your weekend. Not your family troubles. Not your health. The teacher existed inside those four walls as a kind of elevated figure, warm but boundaried, caring but unknowable in the way that made children trust her completely. The moment she became human, fully, messily human, she lost something. Everyone understood this without anyone saying it. Number 7. You controlled the room with your voice, never your hands. Corporal punishment existed in the 1950s. The paddle was real, the ruler was real. But the great teachers, the ones children talked about 50 years later, ruled through something quieter. The look, the pause, the deliberate lowering of the voice instead of the raising of it. Dorothy could silence 32 children by simply stopping talking. She had practiced that silence until it had weight. Number 6. You handled everything alone. No counselors, no learning specialists, no administrators stepping in to help. If a child came in hungry, you noticed. If a child came in with a bruise, you noticed. What you did with that noticing was largely up to you. And you carried it home at night and set it down next to your lesson plans and picked it back up in the morning. Teachers in the 1950s absorbed the weight of their communities in ways that were never named, never compensated, and never fully understood. Number 5. Summer meant nothing. The school year ended in June. The preparation for September began in July. Teachers in the 1950s spent their own money. On average, by some estimates, somewhere between $50 and $100 of their own salary annually. Real money then. On supplies, on materials, on the small things that made a classroom feel like somewhere a child wanted to be. Nobody tracked it, nobody reimbursed it. It was simply what you did. Number 4. You did not have opinions. Not publicly. No politics, no religion beyond the morning prayer that was, in most public schools through the 1950s, still fully legal and widely practiced. A teacher's job was to educate, and education meant facts, and facts meant staying carefully, always on the safe side of controversy. The world was changing fast outside those classroom windows. Inside, stillness was the rule. Number 3. You lived in the community, and the community watched. Many school districts in the 1950s had morality clauses, actual written language in teacher contracts requiring them to behave with decorum outside school hours. But the written rule was almost secondary. The unwritten one was total. Dorothy's neighbors knew she was a teacher. The grocery clerk knew. She was always, in some sense, on duty, always being seen, always representing something larger than herself. Number 2, you did not get married, not if you wanted to keep your job. The marriage bar. By 1950, many urban school districts had softened it. The teacher shortage after the war made that necessary. But in rural districts, in smaller towns across America, a woman who married was a woman who resigned. The economist Claudia Golden documented that at their peak, marriage bars affected approximately 3/4 of American school boards. Dorothy knew this. Every woman in that building knew this. Some of them wore their rings on chains beneath their blouses. Some of them waited. Some of them chose the classroom over the wedding and lived with that choice quietly for the rest of their lives. And number 1, you believed it mattered, even when nothing told you it did. The average teacher's salary in 1950 was around $3,000 a year. They were underpaid, overworked, unprotected, unwatched, and largely unthanked. And yet, the research on educational outcomes from that era, the testimonies, the memoirs, the letters grown adults wrote decades later about the woman who changed everything, they keep pointing to the same place. Those teachers showed up, not because the system rewarded them, not because the pay was fair, not because anyone was paying attention. They showed up because 32 children were waiting, and someone had to be ready when they arrived. Dorothy pinned her hair. She pressed her skirt. She walked out the door into a September morning that smelled like chalk dust and new pencils, and something that felt, to a child, like the beginning of the whole world. She carried rules no one ever wrote down, and she carried them with a quiet dignity that some of us, if we're lucky, can still remember. If a teacher's face just crossed your mind, go find a way to say thank you. And if you want more honest history like this, the kind that doesn't get taught anymore, subscribe. The next story is already waiting.